Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I said welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast with Andy Ruther and Joe Prano. Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Ruther, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, with my co-host, Toronto, Canada, Joey No Chill Prano.
Hello, Andy.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What is that in Canadian?
Afternoon?
Yeah. How do I say it?
I think it's afternoon still.
I know, but what would the Canadians say?
Are you thinking of a term that I don't know?
I'm just being silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were.
There we go. What are you talking about? You know, a little Canadian slang.
Do you ever like, especially in LA? I mean, it's probably different in Ohio. You mostly just probably see Ohio people. But when you were walking around LA, you ever see somebody and you could just like tell by their face? You'd be like, that guy's Irish, like from Ireland. Or you'd be like, oh, that lady right there is Eastern European. Like, do you have that? Oh
yeah. Well, I think I would say
obviously I'm not saying like that guy's black. Like,
well, even Canadian. So
see, what I was gonna say is like I feel like because I've been in Canada now, I can spot a Canadian. I don't know if I could have easily spotted a Canadian before. They're almost masquerading as Americans, but now I feel like I've got it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Canadian family on my street, and I've been, you know.
And do you recognize them because their head hinge is open in the middle?
Yeah, I recognize him kind of more of his mannerisms when he's like walking his kids or doing something. I'm like, you're very Canadian, the way you dress, your hats. And then he talks, and I'm thinking you're 100% Canadian. But it is easy. I think in LA, you could recognize. I'd be more vague. I'd be like, that's definitely a European. You know, you see somebody walking down Venice Beach.
Yes, yeah. I always feel like I can spot. Like I feel like when I was in Venice, I'd be like, "Ooh, that guy's British," and then I'd start following around, wait for him to be like, "Hey, we should go to this T-shirt shop." And be like, "All right, there he is." Eastern Europeans, I always feel like I could spot them too, like stringy, blonde hair, short teeth for some reason.
Oh, so you're getting very specific.
Yeah.
You could identify like the country, the region.
Oh yeah. I'm not just walking around going, that guy's Asian. They're like, all right. What do you got, Tourette's? Stop just screaming out people's races.
Well, yeah, that's an easy one though, right?
Yeah.
That guy looks Asian to me. Well, good segue to the NFL, I think.
Yeah. Well, now it's week 2. Week 1 overreactions are behind us. Now it's can you spot contenders, pretenders, teams that are over, teams whose seasons are over?
Well, I think, I know 2 weeks is nothing, but what's the stat I saw? I saw a stat, and I don't know if this obviously probably hasn't been updated since the 17 game schedule. I think it's only 11% of teams make the playoffs that start 0-2.
Yeah. And like we talked about that last week. It's probably like 10 years from now, that number will probably go up because with the extra game, it's going to be an extra game, extra playoff spot. But yeah, I mean, there was a long time. Starting 0-2 is not good.
Well, I mean, let's
we can bury some 0-2 teams already, right?
We can, but I'm saying let's hypothetically double your number. Let's just say That the
1 in
11%.
5 teams that start. Yeah,
That's
it's
what
not
I'm
going to be
saying.
that high.
That's what I'm saying. It's not even going to double, but yeah, there's a lot of teams you say, hey, you start 0-2, and one in particular, we talked last week about the Chargers. I think you said it. You go, if they start 0-2, I mean, are we looking at Staley's job? Because how they lose, also, again, they're going to Tennessee. Not that that was easy. I mean, I picked Tennessee to cover, but they were the favorites.
Yeah. And they were up most of the game.
They're up
I mean,
11-0.
It was back and forth, but, you know, they had control of that game. You let them come back on you. Yeah, I mean, you at this point, I'm not really sure what you're waiting for at this point in the week. Like, fire him now. Fire him today.
They won't, of course.
They won't. There's a lot of things that have happened so far in this year, and it's just like, oh, we'll wait and see what happens with this. We'll wait and see what happens with that. It's like at this point, let's just talk about something. Like, if I owned the Bears, I'd be like, here's the thing right now. Play the backup, move Justin Fields to running back. Let's get him some reps. Lose all the games. Get Caleb first overall.
I don't know.
Did you see some of the clips? Did you see some of the clips of his missed reads?
I did.
Just wide open guys.
I know.
Has there ever been a more reckless thing? We're going to take some shots at some quarterbacks today. Has there ever been a more reckless thing than, like, somebody out there listening to the show placed a bet on Justin Fields for MVP? And right now, I think Jameis Winston has a better shot of winning MVP. I think Andy Dalton has a better shot of winning MVP. Like, legitimately, if Derek Carr gets hurt tonight, knock on wood, we're not rooting for that, and Jameis takes over, like, he immediately has like 7 times better odds, right? Like, Justin Fields 0-2. He's got receivers running 3-yard outs, holding up their hands like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? When everybody on the team is literally in reflective construction vests. They're just like, hey, maybe Justin will have a hard time missing guys if we abandon our 200-year-old color scheme and put everybody in reflective orange construction vests.
And he still misses them.
He still misses them. They're gonna have to give Justin Fields receivers, now that they've already given them crossing guard outfits. They should give them signs like their Wile E. Coyote that just say "I'm open," that they can hold up when no one's on them, and they can drop as the fucking pass comes in.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, as we talk about it, is someone who's playing as a passer as poorly as Justin Fields at the quarterback position? I just maybe there is somebody. I can't off the top of my head just think of a guy like, oh, they figured it out year 4. Now there's guys who progress. We've seen that. Like Jalen Hurts had a progress, but Jalen Hurts was never near this level, is my point. Like, I don't think if guys don't have it, like if guys are this far off as a accurate passer in year 2.
Accurate. What are we talking about? What are we talking about accuracy for? He didn't miss those guys when he didn't even throw them the ball. He's just taking, dude, the pick 6 where he yelled bingo and fucking 2-hand shoved it into a linebacker on his own goal line. What would you say you do here? Move him to running back immediately.
I mean, we've talked about it. The Ohio State quarterback curse is real, guys. We're going to talk about a lot of curses today. That's one of them. Now we have a young quarterback here with the Texans. We have CJ Stroud, but Like I'm again, like the Ohio State quarterback has never worked out in the professional level.
I
But
think I've had this theory for many a years, and the way college football has gone, there's really not as many schools as there used to be that were dominant. There was a time where in college football, because there was like more of the teams that were really good didn't play really good teams from like other conferences all that often. Now every year, the first game of the season, you get like two different conferences. They're playing like week 1 or whatever. But you'd have Florida State or Florida for like 15 years of my childhood. Those were like the two. That was like the tough game on each other's schedule. Like, you have Ohio State now, Alabama now. Like those are the only teams that like dominate on the level that some of those. But when we were kids, like you have Florida just like winning 56-0 every week. And then they'd be like, Danny Warfel won the Heisman. How's he going to be in the NFL? I don't know. Probably really scared when somebody hits him for the very first time in his life. And he's like, what the fuck was that? Why did that human being throw their entire body weight into me? They're like, oh, that's called a tackle. You never had to deal with it at Florida because you played fucking Florida Atlantic University and you beat them 700-0. I mean, you remember the quarterbacks that would come out of Miami, the quarterbacks that would come out of Florida, the quarterbacks that would come out of Ohio State, quarterbacks.
Yeah, look. To be fair, like Florida SEC, there was definitely I remember Florida State just mowing through teams, and the big game was Florida or Notre Dame. You had great programs. I mean, the SEC's always, in my opinion, has always been, it's always been a gauntlet. But you're saying Justin Fields didn't play enough competition?
I'm saying that these guys who dominate and their schedule is Justin Fields plays Michigan once a year, and then he has a playoff game. It's like they're blowing teams out. He's not getting touched. And I just don't think that prepares you for the NFL. And I think what happens is if you're a great quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, even then, you need a year to fucking get used to getting hit. What is the big school, big fucking dominant quarterback guy who came in and did it? Like, we're running out of fucking examples.
You're talking right away?
Right away. Looked good. Looked like they were competent. They were like, oh, for sure, this guy's going to be great.
I mean, Burrow had a good start. Obviously, he got injured.
Yeah.
But they weren't winning games.
We're talking about 5 guys over the last, 15 years?
I mean, look, yeah, they're guys that look good. I mean, I don't know if you want to put Andrew Luck was good. Then again, Stanford, you don't want to put them in that quote unquote elite program category. They've had some nice runs as a program. It's tough, man. It really is.
I just think the blue chip prospect, the Mark Sanchez, gets a blue chip when he's in 6th grade, wins every high school game 60-0, goes to USC, wins every game 45-0, comes to the fucking Jets and is like, whoa, dude, if I run into my own players, I'm fumbling. Like these guys, it's just like, I just don't think it's not the same as basketball or baseball where you're like, okay.
This guy went to Kentucky. Yeah, he's going to be good in the NBA.
Like, you still got to play against dudes. You're still going to have a guy that guards you straight up and everything. You're still going to have AAU games. You're still going to have whatever. Like,
well, and that's the thing. I mean, we've seen the best quarterbacks. It's not even just the big programs. We talk about facing adversity. Whether it's
like Justin Fields is playing as if he never actually had to make a read in college. And it might be safe to say he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this the other day with a buddy. Look how many wide receivers Ohio State has put out in the last I'm talking like 25 years. Stud receivers, or even guys who just have runs out of nowhere, right? Like the Michael Thomas, who he's not what he was, but just have 2-year, 3-year runs where How many of those guys does Ohio State put out? And that's what all these quarterbacks are throwing the ball to. I mean, you see it now, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a top pick.
Yeah.
It's like all these guys.
But those schools are also putting out tackles and guards and whatever.
Sure.
It's like you're protected and you're throwing to guys who can win on every ball you throw. You're essentially like Justin Fields is missing guys who are wide open. And by missing, I mean not even throwing them the ball because he doesn't see them.
Yeah. So sounds like we both agree. You know, the Bears, they're an 0-2 team. We're saying you done so.
The Bears should be, if the Bears aren't tanking for one starting today, then they're a mismanaged franchise.
Well,
is Justin Fields going to figure it out?
Well, that was my point. Like, when is a guy year 2 who's this off throwing the ball suddenly in
this
year 3?
This isn't his second year, is it?
Yeah.
He was a rookie last year?
Or no, is this his third year?
Yeah, bud.
This already feels his third year? No. It is. Jesus Christ. Wow.
I mean, we're not talking game 2, year 2.
You're right. Talking game 2, year 3. So far, he's completed 59.8% of his passes as a career passer, 26 touchdowns to 24 interceptions. He's been sacked 101 times. I agree. You know, the counter to that is going to be Bears fans saying he doesn't have receivers. He doesn't have this.
Well, you can't look at the videos from yesterday's game and say that it has anything to do with receivers. Like,
no, I agree, but I'm saying people will make excuses.
But this is the point. This is where we are at this point. The delusion. The delusion is so real. Like almost across the board, there's delusion.
When you say across the board, fans
like Lamar Jackson played great yesterday. Nice game. You were there.
He did. He looked great.
Played great. I saw somebody tweet yesterday. You know, for all the people who say Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson, sure doesn't look like it when they play each other. Yeah. And Eli Manning was better than Tom Brady. What the fuck are we talking about? If he had receivers, he'd have gone to a Super Bowl. Okay.
So I have thoughts on Lamar from yesterday. Here's the thing. Lamar played a great game yesterday.
Great game.
The Ravens dominated from start to finish. You know, they marched right down on their first drive, score a touchdown. Bengals didn't have a first down in the first quarter. So it's like from start to finish. They only win by 3, but trust me, anybody who was there knew like that was a game where Baltimore is in full control. They're wisely not letting Lamar cook.
We talked about it already.
Yeah, we did. So, you know, they rushed for 178 yards yesterday. Lamar had 12 of those rushes. It's like they're doing check down. Now he made he had a great deep ball throw and he had a great touchdown. You know, like 25, 30 yard. I forget what it was. But like that was a nice Lamar had some really nice balls. But I was saying this, so I went with my buddy with his company seats, and one of the guys that he works with is a Ravens fan. So he was in an Ed Reed jersey. And I was talking to him about it. And I was like, look, dude, your boy's playing well today. And he, for the most part, I think agreed. I was like, but I would point out to certain plays, right, where he just doesn't get down, and it blows my mind. Right, like he's fighting for there's sidelines right there. There was one instance because we were on the Bengals side bench, and I'm like, dude, just run out. And I literally yelled, I go, just run out of bounds. But he's willing to take these hits. And in my head, I said, dude, they play like they do today. They literally could compete for a Super Bowl. But I saw just yesterday live enough hits that I'm like, can you make it 17 games doing this? Because you haven't the last 2 years.
Yeah. And 21 if you want to win, or 20 if you want to win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. And that's always been my knock on Lamar. He looked good. They looked good as a team. But again, they're still doing all these designed runs, man.
Anthony Richardson 2 weeks in a row in the goal line area, like 2 weeks in a row, taking hits inside the 5. He's missed plays. He's missed plays 2 weeks in a row. Like Anthony Richardson has looked good at moments. Also, he's 2 games into his NFL season, and he's missed plays in each game, taking hits on design runs down at the goal line. All right. Cool. I mean, I guess if you guys want to do this Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson when he's healthy duo act, guess that's a strategy. Now, listen, Andy, we can take some L's here too. We both picked Joe Burrow to be MVP. That campaign is over.
Agreed.
Joe Burrow will not be winning the MVP. He's 10-1 right now or something like that. If you bet on it, you should light your money on fire. Go donate it to charity. He's not winning the MVP. That could be a double curse action. I don't know. Or maybe it was just that you really believed.
I did.
But Joe Burrow looked horrible again.
Well, I'm going to disagree there slightly. The interception was bad.
Yeah.
The interception, because that's the difference in that game, to be honest. They lose by 3. Worst case scenario, they probably get 3 points there. Next play, Lamar throws great pass. I think it was Zay Flowers. They get 7. So it's a 10-point swing. He's hurt, man. And I'll tell you what, Bengals fans, you're not going to want to hear this. Again, I think it is different when you're live because you have a different perspective. That team is nowhere near last year's team, which everyone will say, thanks, Captain Obvious. But last year's team did start 0-2. So I hear this from Zach Taylor in the post-game press conference. You hear it from Burrow. Dude, you guys got to stop comparing. This team that lost their first 2 games, as a quick refresher, they lose in overtime at home to the Steelers on a field goal at the end of the game, and they lose in Dallas on a last-second time expiring field goal. This is not that team. The defense couldn't stop them yesterday. Offense in the first half, like I said, they needed a first down in the first quarter. Burrow, I believe, something along the lines, his first 2 games in the first halves has thrown for 35 and 38 yards.
Right.
The Bengals, I'm going to say this right now. The Bengals' goal should just be to make the playoffs. Because
I think that's it. At 0-2, even with last year being what it was. I mean, I would say even in last year, like your goal has to just be to make the playoff, to just make the playoffs. Like, who gives a shit about winning the division? Like, you just have to get in. You've won the division a couple years. You lost a Super Bowl. You lost an AFC Championship game. Like, win it from a wild card.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said. Because that's a big if. If Burrow's healthy, we know this, and they get in, anything's possible. Like if they have a healthy Burrow, they could make it to the Super Bowl. But I don't think he's healthy. I think they're going to have to sit him, which then means you have Jake Browning coming in. The Skyline curse is real. I'm just going to say it, guys. I'm just going to say it. The Skyline curse is real. Need I reiterate? 22-year partnership with Gold Star. They stuck through multiple 2-14 teams. I get it. It's money. They went for more money in Skyline. But I'll repeat it. Skyline has never produced a championship for any local team here in Cincinnati. So you guys take with that what you want. The Skyline curse, the Andy Ruther curse of adamantly saying he felt Joe Burrow was going to be the MVP. But I don't know. It's just a different vibe. And all these winnable games, like next week, they're at home against the Rams, Monday Night Football for a whiteout game. Then I believe they play at Tennessee. Like those, I had just chalked those up as wins. Not anymore. Right?
No. Not the way that either of those teams are playing.
Let me ask you something, though. I've seen a lot of debates here locally. Do you play Burrow injured, or do you just say, dude, this is our guy, just sit until you get healthy?
I mean,
What do you do?
I think that's got to be Joe Burrow's call, but because you need him to be fully healthy at some point.
Yes.
Right? So the idea, like Joe, you got to sit down with him and be like, if we keep playing you, you just keep feeling like this, and we hope to get pile up a couple wins together. You get better on like a bye week or something like that. But at the same time, if you're hurt, we saw it yesterday. Oh, pissed off after the game, tweak something. Like, you're not going to get healthy playing football. So he's going to have to be fully healthy at some point if they're going to make a run. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere anyway.
Yeah. I know it sounds crazy, but if he's not healthy, I say sit the next 2 weeks. Granted, you could be out of the playoffs for good, but take your chances. That division is a gauntlet. We talk about it.
Listen, that's something that I went through with my Giants in the Eli Manning Super Bowl runs. Is people would be like, "Oh, worst team to ever want to win a Super Bowl, 10-7, 10-6, 9-7, shit like that." And the bottom line is, it was very frustrating to be a fan of those teams because they had their back against the wall multiple times. I think in 2007, the 2007 Super Bowl season, they lost their first 2 games and were, borderline like out of the playoffs, especially since we talked about this is a 16-game season. 10% of teams, 11% of teams make it, whatever. It was always frustrating because you had these guys who were hurt, but not like they couldn't play hurt. And you'd be like, why isn't this guy playing? Like, we need to win this week or we will be out of the playoffs. And then what the fuck does it matter? And the Tom Coughlin strategy was always like, you're not going to win a Super Bowl going into the playoffs hobbled. So the strategy of go into the playoffs healthy and or miss the playoffs is better than fight just to get in and go in hobbled. And it would be frustrating because like we had a couple years in a row where then they like don't make the playoffs and they're right there. And they always played that strategy of get healthy, get in, and get healthy.
The only teams that win Super Bowls starting 0-2 are the 93 Cowboys, 2001 Patriots, and the 2007 Giants. So it only happened 3 times, ever. Which again begs all these questions of, do you sit Burrow? Do you fire Brandon Staley? All these teams that are suddenly 0-2. The Bear situation.
Joe Burrow can get healthy. Brandon Staley's not going to become a good coach.
Yeah.
He might become a good coach going back to being a coordinator somewhere for a while. He might become a good head coach one day. He's not now.
Another 0-2 team, the Broncos.
Yeah, boy. How long is your boy the starting quarterback of the Broncos? They were in control of that game.
21-3. Just a terrible second half. Offensively, defensively. I mean, his leash has got to be short. Sean Payton's got to be pulling his hair out. They have that freak Hail Mary at the end. They have a chance to tie it. That was a wild play. That's what's so crazy about this season. They're 0-2. You can say their season's on the brink already. Washington's 2-0, man.
Well, also you have to look at the teams that you've beaten and the teams that you've lost to and where you've lost to them and shit like that. It's like, you're the Broncos. You're 0-2, but you've also lost to the Raiders and the Commanders
at home.
So your schedule doesn't get easier from here on out.
No, and that's
And you can say, "Oh, the Commanders are 2-0. Maybe they're not as bad." It's like, come on, we both watched both of their games.
a valid point. And then you have like the Bucks are 2-0. The Falcons are 2-0. You have these.
I feel like we also the reverse. We said NFC, AFC, and now like the NFC South hasn't lost a game. We're like the NFC South is just the worst division ever. Well, NFC South, like we heard you.
Well, one of them had to lose. Carolina played Atlanta week 1.
Yeah. But I mean, if the Saints win today, you got 3 2-0 teams in NFC South.
Yeah.
Jesus. There's 3 2-0 teams in the NFC East right now.
Dolphins look good last night. If the Dolphins can win how they won last night in an uglier fashion, not these big explosive plays, and the defense plays like they did, they're going to be a tough team.
I'm still not like fully sold on the Dolphins for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, two is health.
Yeah.
Right? But like I'm not rooting for anybody to get injured. So it's like I hope he's healthy. But also they played a Chargers team shootout. They were on the winning side of it. They play a Patriots team that looked pretty horrible offensively. And they didn't exactly run away. I mean, I know it's in New England. I know it's a primetime game, but like the talent discrepancy on that field seems so heavily weighted toward Miami. And then you're like a offensive lineman's knee going down on a lateral play at the end of the game away from having like a drive to tie it.
I know, dude. You talk about a game where they dominated, and I couldn't believe it came down to a final drive.
And listen, no one cares how you won, just that you are your record. But I'm not so quick to be like, oh, Miami's going to run away with the AFC East right now.
No, me either. I just thought I was, from someone who's been critical, I was impressed with how they won.
Tua, I believe, after last night's game, is the odds-on favorite to MVP right now.
Well, I would bet against that for sure. That's interesting that he's the odds-on favorite after 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Josh Allen, look, the Bills are going to be there. Josh Allen, they got it together. He didn't turn the ball over.
Home game, Raiders.
Yeah, I missed that one. I did get a nice pickup by that field goal at the end for the Rams.
Which was like McVay's going.
Is that a fuck you to Shanahan?
I don't know.
He kicks a field goal as time expires to lose by 7 versus 10, and the spread was 7.5. That was I could not get over it. I was like, why is he doing this?
It seems like the only explanation, right? Sean McVay knew the line.
That's what I was saying.
I mean, but what is the other explanation?
Why aren't they just kneeing it and ending the game? I couldn't get over that. Now, there were some bad turnovers by Stafford, but the Rams have played way better than anybody expected.
Yeah. Bad, but he also didn't he have one that was straight up through somebody's hands as well?
Yeah, that not did.
Yeah. I think one of his picks was just a straight up like right into a guy's fucking hands and out of a guy's hands.
But that was a game where, it was pretty back and forth for 3 quarters.
Yeah. Some kid set a record for the first 2 games receiving most receptions in 2 games. He's like
Saw that.
tied a record or like 1 or 2 catches off the forever record over 2 games.
I saw that. I know, it's crazy.
I saw a statistic, and it's got to make you feel
Puka?
good.
Is his name Puka?
I don't know. Zuka?
Puka.
Puka?
With a
Nuka?
P.
Is it Puka?
Yeah. Puka Nakao?
Um,
Nakao?
I saw a tweet that the Rams, was this a Schefter tweet? Is it that the Rams have $75 million in dead cap this year, but next year have zero money in dead cap and their first round pick since like 2016 or something like that. It's like, you got to feel good if you're the Rams. You're in games. McVay hasn't left, and the Super Bowl cap hell is just like about to be over.
Which would only be 2 years. Last year and this year. I mean, that's, I'll take, if I'm a fan of a team, I'll take 2 years of sucking after winning a Super Bowl.
2 years. It's usually 5. It's usually, you usually have a 5-year grace period.
I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. I think my intuition says Sean McVay feels people questioning his ability after last season. And I think it's personal with him this year, saying, hey, we don't have a good team.
And I'm just going to outcoach a bunch of people.
Yeah, we're going to go 8-9. Like, people were saying we're going to win 4 or 5 games. No. Well, I mean, dude, so they come to Cincinnati next week. I said this during the game yesterday. I go, can you guys imagine the Bengals offense with Sean McVay? I know I've been critical of Zach Taylor, but dude, you're not a good play caller. I think at this point, I'm willing to admit the players like him. So he's a player's coach. He seems to have that aspect down, but you're just not a good play caller, man. I can't even imagine you give a Sean McVay or a Kyle Shanahan that type of offense. I know Burrow's injured. I just think, I don't know. I think these guys, you watch them go against each other yesterday, Shanahan and McVay. It's just these guys are fucking good, man.
I mean, listen, I said about the Giants going into yesterday, I said, if the Giants have to win a close game, I still don't feel like they've turned their season around in any regard. And that's exactly what happened. They had to come back. The one single thing, and it's a double-edged sword here, that's got to make you feel good, although then it doesn't make you feel good because he's denying it, is it was very obvious. Camera caught him on the sideline calling plays. Dable was calling plays in the second half. Totally changed our offense in the second half. Huge comeback. They win the game. And you're like, oh, well, if Dable is going to take over the play calling, now that I still don't even care if we win a close game. Now I'm like, well, I mean, but then of course after the game he's like, I wasn't calling plays. And now you're like, well, bro, what the fuck? But it's exactly that. It's like sometimes it's just that simple. It's like when you say McVay or Shanahan, it's like, okay, they like Zach Taylor, but when you have an offensive mind, and it's not just like the play calling strategy, it's the play to play calling, the linking stuff together.
100%. No, I think these guys, and you could throw McDaniel in there. These young coaches, these offensive minds, they're just very creative. And when you have certain personnel or a lack of personnel, they will get creative from nothing. So, that's my thing with some of these guys. And I think it just shows how much coaching matters. Now, people have strong opinions about your starting quarterback, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
People have left some messages on our Dirty Sports hotline.
Now, do you think are any of these messages, do we have timestamps on them? Because there's a lot of messages being left in the Dirty Sports Twitter and the Dirty Sports Reddit that have already, the tides have already turned. People were posting You know what's my favorite part about it is, and we're not going to talk about them for a long time because we don't really usually spend a ton of time on just absolutely trash, garbage, not going to make the fucking playoffs 0-2 teams. But oh boy, were the 0-2 Vikings fans turned yesterday. Hey, your own house is on fire. Get off my lawn.
This is what it's come to, guys. I've noticed in Dirty Sports. It's turned into a Daniel Jones versus Kirk Cousins discussion. So we did have one Minnesota fan call about Daniel Jones. Our farmer Dirtball Jay. He's giving his opinion on Daniel Jones. And this is before the game. And to me, I don't really care. I know you seem to care. It's like this was probably Thursday or Friday. This is what he thinks about. And he actually brings up the Cousins versus Daniel Jones.
Joe, Andy, number one Minnesota Farmer Dirtball. I'm going to try to keep this call more brief than my last one. Main points. Vikings, we should if we suck this year, it's not the worst thing in the world. We don't have to extend Kirk. We get a high draft pick. There's 3 good quarterbacks in the next draft. Historically, we've been kind of middle of the road. We draft a Christian Ponder or a Tavares Jackson. It sucks being stuck with those guys. And then it's a project. Well, you got to give them 2 years. It's just a disaster. Next order of business, Daniel Jones. Prano. He's faster, Kirk Cousins. That's it. Let's be honest, man. We're not going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. You ain't winning a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. Take your blue and white glasses off, man. My dog just tried to eat a bat. Sorry. Anyway, I'll put a case of Busch Light on it. We can have this be a ongoing bet. You win, I'll get you Miller Lite. I win, you get me Busch Light. I mean, it's just you gave a bunch of money to faster Kirk Cousins. So enjoy. Stay dirty, boys.
Well, faster Kirk Cousins isn't something I'll necessarily argue with, but here's the difference between Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins. Daniel Jones has been mediocre in his few years in the NFC East, stockpiles a lot of yards, looks really good when the team's already down, terrible against a good pass rush. Oh, Daniel Jones is Kirk Cousins? Yeah. Guess what, Minnesota Vikings? If the fucking San Francisco 49ers had made Daniel Jones the highest paid player in all of football this year because they were one game away from the Super Bowl and thought Daniel Jones put him over the top, then he'd be Kirk Cousins. What people don't understand about Kirk Cousins is you're comparing him to a guy who is the 13th highest paid quarterback on a team that doesn't believe in its heart can win the Super Bowl. You signed him to put you over the top. The Giants don't have to decide whether I can make the decision whether or not Daniel Jones could or could not win the Super Bowl. The Giants don't have to make that decision today because I don't believe Brian Daboll thinks that they can win the Super Bowl today. After next season, they could opt out, have dead cap money for one fucking season and move on. Kirk Cousins got signed by a team in the NFC Championship game and has won a single playoff game since it happened. This is not a matter of who is better. It is, we go back to overrated, underrated. The whole fucking world. Oh, Daniel Jones is good. Daniel Jones is bad. Daniel Jones is worth this. Daniel Jones is worth that. You guys can have the conversation all you want. One thing is for sure. Only delusional Vikings fans think Kirk Cousins can win fucking anything. And guess what? If you're a Vikings fan who prefers Kirk Cousins to Case Keenum, you hate winning.
So To be fair, he said we're not winning anything with Kirk Cousins. We're not winning.
Oh,
a
I'm
Super Bowl."
glad that after 6 seasons and 2 extensions, you guys have finally come around.
Well, I want to address his comparison. I think Farmer Dirtball J, I think it's a terrible analogy, to be honest. I think there's such different quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is very play it safe. He doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't, not much statistically. Deion Jones is on the other end is way more turnover prone. One was drafted to a pretty bad team in the Giants. One was drafted to the Redskins as a backup. One was supposed to start right away. Then one went to, like you said, a team that just
one
made
has had Jefferson, Thielen, and Diggs in his time in Minnesota. One has had Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, a blind tight end.
Yeah, so I don't even really like to compare them because I think you are.
I love when people are like, if Lamar Jackson had receivers, he'd win a Super Bowl. And Vikings fans are like, if Kirk Cousins had 8 more all-pro receivers, that he can. Kirk Cousins prays more when he releases the football than he does at his father's super church on Sunday. Close your eyes and chuck it to Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is going to break the receiving record while Kirk Cousins goes 7-10. And you extend him again.
Now, look, my feelings about Daniel Jones. I'm not a believer personally. I don't like to compare those two, though, because I just think it's different players, different situations. Someone else is leaving a call trying to make their comparison. And this one, to me, is very out of left field. This is their comparison for Daniel Jones with another former NFL quarterback.
Yo, what's good, Joe and Andy? It's your boy Nick. Listen to Thursday's podcast. And Joey Prano's going off about Daniel Jones, and I just had this epiphany in my brain. Daniel Jones is literally the new Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles had that one good year, went to the championship game. They gave him another chance. And then he shit the bed again. Same shit that's going to happen with Danny Dimes. Dude's trash. Had that one decent year last year, beat the shitty Vikings in the playoff game. They give him a contract. It's Blake Bortles 2.0. Sorry, Joe. Quarterback shit. Anyways. What are your thoughts about that? I think it's pretty accurate. Anyways, this is definitely going to trigger Joe, but it's for the lulz. Also, I agree with Andy about the COVID bullshit.
Okay, I don't feel like getting into that. I didn't know this call. I'd rather.
Let me ask you something, Andy. Why? First of all, how embarrassing. What an embarrassing call. I'm assuming we're getting all these calls. We get a Minnesota dirtball from wherever. Do you remember me do you remember the fucking trolls on Twitter? Do you remember Swingman9? You remember Raymond Assface?
I think it was Swingman _9, but okay.
Swingman _9, Raymond Assface, Brandon Ward, whatever these guys, B Ward. And that are now the Blake Bortles defenders. So we have the Minnesota Farmer dirtballs coming and comparing him to Kirk Cousins, and the Blake Bortles defenders coming and comparing him. So are you guys just trying to tell me I finally beat it into you? What happened to your quarterbacks? And now the only play you have is to be like, you remember that guy you said sucked? Well, I finally believed you, and your quarterback is the same as our quarterback. How come there's no obvious ones? How come we don't have the Josh Allen call? How come we don't have the week 1 against a good defense, 4 turnovers, week 2 against a shit defense, 3 touchdowns, 62% passing, 300 yards, Josh Allen couldn't complete 60% of his passes until he met Brian Dable, not even in college. But then he did, and then he was the odds-on favorite to win MVP, and then he left, and he couldn't stop turning the ball over. But this week at home against a shit team, he looks good again. How come we don't do that one? Runs the ball a little too much, probably needs to run to win. That's the one we'll refuse to do, the obvious one, because you guys all think Josh Allen's the fucking king of the world because he put up a couple good stat seasons in a row when he finally got a big-time receiver. Oh, Stephon Diggs leaves Minnesota. Oh, Gabe Davis shows up. All of a sudden, Josh Allen, king of the world, can finally complete more than 60% of his passes. MVP candidate. That's the one we won't do.
No, I don't like that. Here's my thing with that analogy of those two guys. Josh Allen definitely started putting it together quicker. When was Stephon Diggs? Was Stephon Diggs on the 2020 Buffalo Bills?
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones runs a lot. Probably more
No
than Josh
shit.
Allen.
That's a whole other fucking.
I'm saying I didn't realize till I looked at he rushed for over 700 yards last year.
Yeah.
Like he rushed for which to be fair though, obviously we know how we feel. He also rushed for a lot of touchdowns last year. So it's like, you add the rushing yards
yesterday, rush for whatever. Like,
yeah. So, my thing on a lot of these quarterbacks, it's if you're not great, or if we don't know after year 2, it is tough, man. It's like, because there is money, there is an investment. There's what I'm trying to say is there's only so many QBs, I think you'd agree with me, right? That after year 2, can this be my guy? And I think we all need to remember this when we're having these conversations. That's why it's tough when you discuss Daniel Jones, because you're like, hey, do you get rid of him? Now, I'm not the biggest believer in him, but I also understand the other side of, well, what's your option?
Well, let me ask you, Andy. Forget. So let's take my blue and red glasses off. My blue and white glasses off. The Giants, in Dable's first year, go to the playoffs, beat the fraudulent Minnesota Vikings with their fraudulent quarterback, who they've extended twice. Daniel Jones looks great in that game. They get murdered by Philly. What was your play this season? Go out and get Derek Carr? Is that a better
that's my
move?
point. You're in a way proving what I was about to say was they win a playoff game on the road. You're not changing your quarterback. Like I wouldn't. You got to let it play out a little more. That was kind of my point, is you don't want to
trade 3 first-rounders for Brock Purdy, extend him, make him the highest paid quarterback in football?
Yeah.
What's the move?
That's why I'm at. That's why I literally was asking that. Like, what is the move? I'm just tossing it out there. What is the move?
Extend your quarterback for 4 years. Be the only team that signed a quarterback that didn't make him the single highest paid quarterback to ever play the game. I love that I love that like you guys embarrass yourselves sometimes because all your tweets are out there. Jalen Hurts, not good the first couple of years. But Jalen Hurts gets the most money that's ever been paid to a football player. Everybody's like, yeah, it's fine. What's the big deal? They almost won a Super Bowl, except he single-handedly turned the game over on a fumble when he was untouched. Of course he has to get the most money of all time. And if you make Daniel Jones the 13th highest paid quarterback in football, LOLs.
Well, I guess people might say this would be the move. I'm trying to think in the mind. The argument would be, and I'm not saying I agree with this. The argument would be Daniel Jones isn't going to win you a Super Bowl, so you almost need to hit that reset button already. But again,
then do it last year.
But that's what I'm saying.
Then bring in Dable and go over.
But that's what I was about to say.
QB.
It's tough to do when you just want a playoff game, especially on the road. So you're just going to hit that reset button and tank. Like Arizona tanking makes sense, right? There's certain teams tanking right now that make complete sense. The Giants were kind of in that middle ground where it's just a difficult situation. Now, I don't know. The argument can be made. I don't know what's going on with Saquon Barkley's ankle.
Yeah.
You take him out of the equation.
Well, they're going to lose on Thursday if they had Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey in the backfield together. So you don't play them. You go from there. And then you have Seattle at home, and you try to go 2-2. If you go 1-3, you can tank. You can tank. If you go 1-3 and you're out of the playoffs, tank. Now the question is, you can't protect your quarterback. You have zero NFL. You have zero receivers that would start on the majority of NFL teams. Your defense is suspect. So you tank. If you lose to Seattle and you're 1-3, you tank and you draft a QB. You're running a football team, guys. That's the question marks. Here's what I would do if I was running a football team. I would never be a game away from the Super Bowl and hand the reins over to Kirk Cousins and extend him twice. I would never draft a quarterback from Ohio State. I would never be like, let's buy low on Jared Goff.
Well, old Jared kind of resurfaced yesterday with that pick six. I know he hadn't thrown an interception in like 330 something passes. Lions, huge loss, in my opinion. And here's why. It was there to start 2-0, man. It was just there. I know it's any given Sunday, and it's not easy.
I said this on Twitter yesterday. I am going to wait for some sort of, like, I think by Wednesday, the NFL could overturn the, like, I refuse to believe that the Lions lost. 17-0 was locked and loaded, dude. They beat the Super Bowl champs. Kelsey wasn't there. Excuses. Grit. If you're not betting Tua MVP, if you're not betting Goff MVP right now, kill yourself. I know that they've lost a game, but I'm still betting on them going 17-0. Like, you guys are fucking delusional. Seattle came in and beat you at home, and you couldn't stop them at all.
Couldn't stop them at all.
I just talked about Seattle coming to New York in 2 weeks. I've chalked up a loss to the San Francisco 49ers. If Seattle comes to the Giants in 2 weeks and beats them in New York, in New Jersey, and they're at 1-3, season's over.
Yeah, my thing, if I'm a Lions fan, again, I know it's only 1 week. It's just the way the game went. You just couldn't stop them. That's got to be concerning. We have a really interesting call about Dan Campbell and Sean McVay.
Please, this is...
No, it's not where you think. It's just a scenario call.
Hey, what's up, boys? Just had a quick question about coaches. I was wondering, who do you think is not coaching their current team or gets fired first? Dan Campbell or Sean McVay? Me and my brother were talking about it. Couldn't agree, so like to know what you think. Later.
So he's basically saying, is Sean McVay going to retire?
Why is Sean McVay there if he's going to retire?
I don't know. I mean, they said he was debating that after the Super Bowl, but obviously he didn't.
Right. Obviously he didn't.
Let me put it this way real quick about Dan Campbell. We all know the Lions have one playoff win in the modern NFL since the merger in 1970. So one playoff win. So if the Lions win a playoff game, and there's a good chance they do because the NFC's weak this year. If the Lions win a playoff game, whether you like it or not, Lions, you're stuck with it. It's like the Marvin Lewis Cincinnati Bengals problem when they didn't make the playoffs at all, and then they kept.
And also, there's a good chance they win a playoff game this year.
I think there is.
There's a good chance that they're a top 3 NFC East team or NFC team, top 3.
I'd put their odds at winning a playoff game 50-50 right now. So to me, that's a good chance. You're flipping a coin. You don't think that? So if I'm saying 50-50 that the Lions win a playoff game.
No, I don't believe 50-50. First they have to get there. Okay? So let's just do math on that. Okay? First they have to get there.
Okay.
Okay? Do I think there's a 100% chance they get there? No. Do I think there's an 80% chance they get there? Sure. Okay. 80% chance they make the playoffs. You haven't even picked them to win the division.
No.
So now they're winning a road playoff game against San Francisco, Dallas, or Philly. Whoever wins the NFC South, maybe we get them. They get that draw. Or potentially even a Packers team or somebody else that comes out of the NFC North. You think it's 50-50 that the Lions go to New Orleans for Wild Card Weekend and win?
I do. I'm gonna say that right now.
First, you got to get there.
They do. After week 2, I'm upset. And again, I have a bet that they don't win a playoff game. That's more of me just having fun. I'm going to set it at 50-50.
I mean, there's got to be a 10% chance Jared Goff gets hurt. I don't know if it's 50-50 that the Eagles win a playoff game. Like, week 2 of the NFL season, we're just coin flip. You just got to pencil in 15 more weeks and a playoff win. What if the Cowboys win the NFC East? What if the Cowboys have the best record in the NFC and then the Eagles and the Lions got to play each other?
I don't think the Cowboys will. I know the Cowboys are looking good so far. You know, 2 weeks. You also the Zach Wilson. It's like, which by the way, I mean, talk about deja vu for that defense. Defense didn't look good yesterday, but you're stuck with Zach Wilson again. I don't know. Maybe 50-50 is a little reckless. I'm just gonna put it out there.
I know 17-0 was all but assured last week after they beat the Super Bowl champs. Here's the only hope I would say that for that call, going back to that call, is the delusion in Detroit might be so high that if Dan Campbell wins a playoff game and then doesn't win another one or gets to the playoffs and loses, he could be gone because Lions Reddit runs the organization. Like, we're 2 years removed from being like, you guys should be boycotting games. And they're like, dude, we're a couple bounces away from being 13-4 this year. You guys you won 2 games. What are you talking about?
They did stick by we're losing games close, which is to me is the most pathetic stance ever a sports fan can take. We're losing games close. Okay, cool. A loss is a loss, man. 2 weeks in, are you saying the Niners are still the best team?
In the NFC or in football?
Football.
I think they're the most complete team. Yeah. I know Dallas's defense has been looking fantastic.
Yeah, they looked great, man.
If you told me those teams are going to play right now for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, location unknown, I think I'd still bet on the Niners.
The Chiefs are going to figure it out, for the record. I think we all know that.
I don't even think it's a matter of. I don't even think that they don't have it figured out already.
I mean, look, everyone's like, "Oh, the Chiefs offense." Like, you'll see these editorials. The Chiefs offense in 2 games, dude. They won a road game by 8 points against a very solid Jacksonville team. The offense isn't clicking like it can.
The Chiefs, and with Mahomes, they're the true definition of who gives a shit.
Just win.
How they win games.
Yeah.
I'd hate them sniffing around the 1 seed with 4 weeks to go in the season, and then just like, oh, everybody's healthy, and we have taught the fucking young wide receivers how to catch passes, and next stop, the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How is the Chiefs offense going to be able to handle blah, blah, blah? I don't know. They figured it out in the Super Bowl against the unstoppable Eagles.
They always figure it out. That's what's crazy.
Because it's not a matter of it being figured out. Like, I don't even think it's a strategy thing. I mean, you talk about all these teams that had Super Bowl hangovers. Chiefs have been to 4 or 5 straight AFC championship games.
Well, ever since Mahomes came into the league, we'll do the math. They lost to the Patriots. They beat the Niners.
They lost to the Bengals.
Lost to the Bucks. Lost to the Bengals. Beat the Bengals. 5 straight. That's insane. Yeah, that's how good they've been there. You know, there's a doubleheader tonight.
I know.
So apparently the NFL they're not even hiding this. This is just a test. The NFL, ESPN, parent company Disney, they're literally testing. How many viewers can we get? Will people do both games?
But they've done Monday night doubleheaders before.
They have, but there's a second one later in the season. They're straight up, like, they don't do that. They're doing one later in the season. I think your Giants are on one of those games. They're basically saying what's going to happen. It's almost like a science experiment. What's going to happen?
Now, do we get Peyton and Eli tonight? No.
I don't think we do because of that. And I think now,
shameful.
Again, with something like a YouTube TV, what they're probably hoping is people like me are just going to have both games on, so they can count double the ratings.
But they don't start simultaneously.
No, but I mean, within an hour, Saints Panthers 7:15. And here's what's interesting. This is also part of the test. Saints Panthers, ESPN at 7:15. Browns Steelers, ABC. And the argument too is like there's still enough old heads that are like, I got my network TV.
Right.
I don't want to mess with this cable stuff. Which, like, who are these people? Like, who are you? But I also read that it's a test for, the ESPN Plus is doing the second game as well along with ABC. It's going to be a test for ESPN's standalone app, which is happening, right? They're going to have their own app, just like a Disney Plus. Hey, you don't want all that other cable? Pay $8 a month for just ESPN. And they're going to do that. So, I don't know. Obviously, one game is a lot worse as far as division, tradition-wise. You think more people are going to watch Browns Steelers anyway.
But yeah, there's also the Saints Panthers game starting earlier. Panthers not a good team. but obviously it's a division game. You're going to draw eyeballs down there. You're going to draw more eyeballs on that game than you would Saints Panthers on Sunday afternoon.
Oh,
So
100%.
it's just like a win no matter what. And like those you're still getting those viewers. So like the idea that you're not getting them for that, those guys are being taking away from the Browns whatever game, like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, I know. Let's do a little non-NFL for a second. Can we do that?
Sure.
We didn't discuss this last episode. It seems like they're going to bring back the best players in the States for the Olympics. LeBron wants one more go. I think he's going to get Steph and Anthony Davis for 2024. This was very surprising for me to see.
Well, if Steph has never played,
true.
The LeBron, KD, those like that older class, they played when they were really young. LeBron really like.
I believe it was 2012 the last time LeBron played.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still winning titles at that point.
No, but like that was the one because in 2008, right? He was. And that's, yeah, he came. Did he play 3 times? I played 2 or 3 times. But I mean, that's 12 years ago. So it's a last hurrah for those guys.
He played 2004 team that got the bronze.
Right. 2004, 2008, 2012.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I know about the 2004 because that was the LeBron played like 6 minutes. And somehow it's his fault that they got the bronze.
He only, 11 and a half minutes a game, 5.4 points a game. Yeah. So it looks like they're going to give it like one last go around.
But he hasn't gotten to play with Steph. Steph hasn't played in it at all. It's Paris. LeBron has ended the career. Like, we're not now worried about him putting miles on his legs because it's like, this is going to be the wrap. He's rapping anyway.
I think this is a direct Jordan thing. Just like with Jordan, like get his whole, not just persona, but the story, like how he sets it. It's like, I think maybe that's a move. Like, hey man, I'm gonna end. We're gonna get, especially after they lost. Granted they didn't have the best players, but whatever.
That was the storyline with Kobe too, right? Like the Kobe came back and saved the redeem team, even though LeBron outplayed him statistically for the whole fucking thing. Kobe came back and saved what LeBron couldn't do in 11 and a half minutes.
But that's my point. Do a documentary. I mean, that has to be there. The LeBron Jordan, the non-basketball stuff, I think is interesting. Because I think a lot of that probably goes to play. I'd say deep down, we know how competitive these guys are.
I also think that when you have that whole conversation that went on around it, the NBA is not the world championship, and you see these guys, the NBA is so great now and the quality is so good, but the basketball around the world's gotten good. So we've done this. This is now this is the second iteration of this where we were like, yeah, but our B team could still beat yours. And then we're like, fuck. Our B team can't beat yours.
Yeah.
Now we got to bring out the fucking stars.
But again, that's a tribute to how just the sport of basketball.
Yeah.
How well it's grown as a sport that our B team can't even bronze in this world championship, this latest one. They came in 4th place, still having multiple stars that are NBA All-Stars. That's how good basketball's gotten.
But I think that was also, wasn't that the inspiration for the Dream Team originally? Didn't they lose in 88 to like Russia or something? And then they're like, we're going to fucking bring NBA players.
Yeah. You know what's crazy to me? Is that like, they never
but you know,
thought it.
you know what it might be? Even in 88, they might have lost to like the Soviet Republic. So you had all those teams that were playing there.
So in 88, John Thompson's the head coach. It was all college kids.
Yeah.
Now a lot of these guys go on to the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them. Dude, Stacey Augmon, Hersey Hawkins, Dan Marley, Danny Manning, J.R. Reed, Mitch Richmond, David Robinson, Charles Smith. I mean, you had guys who were.
I mean, Dave Robinson won an MVP in the league. Mitch Richmond is an all-star.
The team did not reach the gold medal for the first time in its history, which I'm really confused because the U.S. won every game, but they did lose to the Soviet Union. So I don't know how they didn't. The standings make no sense to me. These make no sense. The Soviets went 7-1, Yugoslavia 6-2, the States 7-1.
Well, there's a
so
group round and then a medal round.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. Oh, so they won the bronze. Okay. Anyway, you're right. That was the redeem team.
And then it was like, oh, well, we'll fuck you up if we bring our stars. And then they brought everybody.
Which, by the way, it's funny to me that like nobody ever thought of that. Like, let's just bring the NBA guys. Let's see what happens.
Well, there was a whole thing, for so long, the Olympic Committee, like you couldn't be a professional athlete.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Like you had to have amateur status, but then other people were doing it for across other sports, and they're like,
we have an interesting call, speaking of international stuff with the NBA. Obviously, you follow what's going on with the Saudis, just buying up players, mostly in soccer, and then with the Live Golf Tour. So here's a call about the NBA.
Yeah, boys. Austin here, formerly from Key Largo, now living in Oregon. Question here for you is, are you guys worried about the Saudis buying up all the sports and maybe the potential of the NBA sometime in the future? Just wondering if you guys are worried at all about that, and we'll just hear your thoughts in general. Seems like they bought up all golf, and they're working their way through soccer, and then maybe basketball next. Thanks, boys. Peace.
Well, I mean, you use the word worry. I don't really care. Like,
I guess the only worry I would have from a basketball perspective is like if they get so much money that they draw prime players over there to play. So far, that's still not happening where you could make, like we've seen the Steph Marbury or whatever, those guys go, okay, a last hurrah. Like I wouldn't be worried about Kevin Durant playing what would have been the last 3 years of an NBA career in Saudi Arabia for $1 trillion. Because who gives a shit? Good for him. Get that money, Am I worried that the Saudi Arabians will buy the Bulls or buy the Mavericks or buy whatever and then infiltrate the NBA? No. And you know why I'm not worried about that? Because I'm one of those guys. Put your earmuffs on if you've been triggered by my woke lib cuckness lately. But I don't think fucking Saudi Arabian billionaires are even worse people than American billionaires.
On a billionaire scale?
I mean, look at, I know, I don't want to go into politics, but like,
well, no, I would argue.
What about the report from the NFL that still in 2022, NFL owners are like, if the blacks don't like it, they can go back to the plantation. You're like, whoa, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I think it's a pretty easy argument, and most people would agree that I don't think most billionaires are good people. In fact, I don't. I mean, I know I'm completely but like I don't know. Is there a good billionaire? Like that's why the people are always evil in the movies, right? So
I mean, there's a theory about billionaires that you essentially cannot make $1 billion without taking advantage of human beings.
And that's probably a 100% accurate theory. So yeah, so like I don't know who's worse, but the notion, here's my thing. This is where people like try to take a stand on the human rights issue. And I agree that it's like, dude, they don't have a good track record in Saudi Arabia, but neither do the billionaires here. So now somebody could say, there's different things. And I know everybody wants to bring up the murder of Jamal how's his name pronounced? Khashoggi, that journalist that was killed.
Listen, just so people who live inside of their own U.S. bubble, like the way that we portray Saudi Arabia and people over there to be that's how the rest of the world feels about us.
So on that, it's like, yeah, nobody wants to see a league, but I don't think that would happen.
I still think that you're going to have guys that you're making so much money in the NBA that if you're a guy who's in the, like, if you're in a legacy conversation, what is that worth to you? Like that might be a thing about soccer where it's like, what's the real, like the World Cup's the most important thing, but also the Champions League is super important. But then if you're dominating the Premier League, that's it. There's no like one thing where you're like, this is where your legacy is really built. Where it's like, if you're trying to have a conversation about the greatest basketball player of all time, it's just about what they did in the NBA. So yeah, you might get some, like, I don't know, the future equivalent of, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of a guy, the future equivalent of Kyrie Irving, the future equivalent of Anthony Davis leaves the NBA and goes and plays for $2 billion a season. Does it really affect the NBA that much? And it's really not affecting their legacy much either. But I don't think you're going to see a guy like Steph Curry leave the NBA to go play over there, because Steph Curry is probably thinking about the top 10 argument. He's probably thinking about the best point guard of all time argument. He's probably thinking about like his longevity stats.
Because we all know this one thing.
It's about legacy, yo.
It's about legacy, yo.
Exactly.
I wanted to bring up Colorado again. I know we've talked a lot about it, but I don't care. The Deion phenomenon is just, it truly is fascinating. I didn't watch any football, and I've seen a lot of people say this, not just us. I've seen a lot of people be like, dude, my interest has waned big time. And I saw somebody write a funny post, and they were like, dude, why? I'm staying up on them in the East Coast. I'm like, Colorado.
2 a.m.?
Yeah. Colorado State. And it's like, I was tired. I didn't stay up for the whole game. But here I am, literally lying in bed, 11:30. And here's the thing. It's turned into a thing so much that, like, I'm watching with my girlfriend because it's like, oh, The Rock's there. Offset from Migos is there. And Lil Wayne introduced the team. And it's all these celebrities. And now it's like, dude, I'm watching this with we're together watching Colorado. And we're like, oh, what's going on with Deion? I mean, It's next level what he said. Kawhi Leonard, I'm sure you saw the tweet. Everybody was laughing. Kawhi Leonard doesn't show up for his own games.
Yeah.
He's showing up on the sideline. We're to this point. I don't think people really fully grasp it. Deion's literally having Lil Wayne walk onto the field, introduce the team in a Colorado jersey. Both ESPN Game Day and Fox's NFL or whatever they do, college football kickoff, both were on the campus for a game against an 0-2 Colorado State team. And I'm going to read you this quote. You'll love this quote. Did you watch Deion 60 Minutes?
No. Was it last night?
Yeah, which again is another thing. It's like they said Deion's been featured.
60 minutes.
They did a full Deion interview. And by the way, this is the second time.
Can you just imagine what would have to happen for you to turn on 60 Minutes next week and for the Arizona State head football coach to be there? You'd be like, did he rape 60 people?
I was going to say it would be something bad.
Like what? Like, did Tom Hanks buy the University of Arizona State University, and implement himself as a head coach? What would have to happen for the fucking head coach of some other Pac-12 team to be on 60 Minutes next week? And people laughed at like, oh, this is the biggest thing that's happened in college football of my lifetime. It's like not even close. There is no second place.
It's not even close. And here's what's crazy. This is the second time 60 Minutes has done a full-length interview like this. Sit down, like 15-minute interview, 15 minutes of TV time since October. So like, and I want to pull this quote that I saw from Deion on 60 Minutes. And this is 100% what you said. He told 60 Minutes, my kids who play for me, they didn't choose a university. They chose me. And if you watch it, it's basically saying, dude, I can go wherever. It doesn't matter. Like nobody would have thought Deion Sanders in this fun, loving, like hippie town Boulder. You know what I'm saying? Like,
now let me ask you something. The talk is already like, where's Deion headed next? Like, oh, Clemson's down, blah blah blah. It's like, why? At this point, you're at a level of like, why would you leave? Don't you kind of like, doesn't he win the most by just like making Colorado a powerhouse in like a minute and a half? And then if you're Colorado, if you have the Clemson or the Alabama or the whatever being like, we'll give you
$15 million a year.
Then they go, we'll give you 15.1. Like what? Can you imagine Colorado just like being the flag that was implanted on college football's new moon station? And then being like, yeah, well, bye.
It's pretty crazy.
Like I'd sell buildings before I let Deion leave. I'd cancel other teams. I'd be like, there is no volleyball team anymore. He's getting that money. The swim team's off. He's getting that money. There are going to be more. Kids are going to enroll to Colorado that were never going to enroll to Colorado. You're going to make that money back a trillion-fold.
What's crazy to me, we talk about something we've never seen. Especially on a college campus. We're not talking about Matthew McConaughey at the Texas game. Cool, he went there. The only similarity, and it's not similar because it's LA, was during the Leinart Bush years. LA didn't have a football team. I remember all the celebrities on the sidelines. I remember Will Ferrell, but again, Will Ferrell went there, so that's not even a good analogy. But I remember seeing a lot of celebrities on the sidelines, but it was also in LA. That's what I couldn't get over. I'm like, all these rappers, The Rock, they're in Boulder for a 10 p.m. Colorado State game.
They had to fly to Denver and get in a car and fucking drive to Boulder.
And Deion did both the Fox and ESPN college show during the day. Now, the argument of like the team and coaching, you guys can say all you want, but as far as what he's done, every business, to be honest, like this is marketing 101. Like Deion is the best marketer ever. They've already won 3 games. They won 1 last year. Now, if they get smoked this week by Oregon and smoked the week after that at SC, there's a good chance that'll happen. They're going to win 5 or 6 games, though. And it doesn't matter. Like you said, the kids are going there because they say, hey, I want to play professionally. Deion will get me there.
The fucking why are people going at Deion? Like, dude, at this point, if you go at Deion, you're embarrassing yourself. Why did that coach do that?
I don't know, man. It was a hell of a game, though.
It was a hell of a game. Colorado's best player is out because some guy tried to murder him.
I mean, that was insane. Yeah, Travis Hunter.
Why that guy didn't get ejected is crazy.
That was violent. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, seriously, I know it's a joke. Kawhi doesn't show up to like, where did Kawhi come from? Kawhi's not from there. He's from California. Kawhi's just like, yeah, Deion is a thing. I'm going to the sideline. It's insane, man, what he's doing.
I mean, I sent you that meme of Nick Saban now that other schools can
the what's the guy? What's the
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell
fucking just having his hard drive fry. Mitch McConnell having a fucking aneurysm at the podium. And the meme was Nick Saban now that other schools can pay their players too.
You know what's crazy? Did you even think about that meme? Is that Deion and Saban do all those Aflac commercials together too?
Yeah. But dude, the sunglasses thing, like, dude, I wish I was on the internet enough to be able to be like, just wait. Like a good investment strategy is to wait for the next thing that somebody like comes at him after and immediately buy stock. Like I wish I owned stock in Deion's fucking sunglass company.
Oh yeah, the sunglasses.
And he just gave them to the whole team. Then they sold out of them. They're his sunglasses.
So he was giving them to everybody.
Yeah,
on TV, brilliantly to market.
I'm not 100%.
Hold on. Did you watch some of that game?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
I was up till 2 a.m. I've watched more Colorado football between the hours of 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. this year than I watched all college football in the last 5 seasons that were in playoff games. Conspiracy theory. I'm not 100% convinced that Deion Sanders didn't call that coach and say, outside your office door right now is a Colorado State duffel bag. We bought it at your bookstore. And there's $1 million in cash in it. All you have to do is say, when I grew up, people took their sunglasses off when they talked to people. That's all you have to do. And the coach was like, hey, man, I'm not going to take it easy on you on Saturday. Deion's like, I want you to beat us, bro. But this is $1 million cash that you can just drop in your bank account tomorrow. All you have to do is make fun of my fucking sunglasses. He's like, I don't know what this is all about, but okay. And then Deion wakes up the next day and has $14 million more in his bank account because every single white kid, 20 to 25 in the state of Colorado, bought his sunglasses last weekend.
It's crazy. It's bonkers, man, what he's doing. Again, people are staying up to watch these two teams play. Never seen anything like it.
And all that, dude, football, any given Sunday, any given Saturday, they still won.
They still won. His son's still playing very well at quarterback.
His other kid
had a pick 6
and a forced fumble.
Yeah.
Now, did you see the Danny Kanell thing?
No.
First of all, greatest response of all time from Deion Sanders Jr. to Danny Kanell. But then
What did Danny Kanell say?
Danny Kanell said, like, are we really like storming the field when you were a 24-point favorite at home? And I think Deion Sanders Jr. quote tweeted it and said, "You a full hoe." First of all, amazing. Second of all, as a guy who had to watch Danny Kanell stink in the NFL because he played at Florida State and never got touched by a single human being in his college career, there is a conspiracy theory that the reason he went so hard at Deion over the weekend was because Deion fucking pick-sixed him when he was playing in Dallas and high step for 30 yards into the end zone at the Meadowlands.
That's hilarious. Oh, I just pulled it up. You are a pure hoe.
You are a pure hoe.
What just a great sentence.
Right?
You're not just a hoe. You are a pure hoe.
And then if you go to the replies in that, you can see the clip of, they're like, this is why he's so pissed off. And it's Deion high stepping for a third of a football field at the old Giant Stadium.
Oh my God. Bro. You know, lost in all this, my brother brought up a great point, which I couldn't stop laughing about this. Lost in all this is that Deion Sanders, no lie, this is going to shock people when they hear this, was one of my dad's favorite Reds of all time. I don't know how those two connected, but he reminded me on text there. He goes, do you remember how much Dad loved Deion Sanders? I said, yeah, you wouldn't think an old, like, conservative white guy. Something about Deion. But I think, dude, I think he's tapped. It's funny. I think Deion has tapped in a weird way into that, because I read they've done 2 articles now on him in the Wall Street Journal. Again, you probably call it pretty conservative. That's a pretty conservative paper. 60 Minutes, pretty conservative. And the guy was writing about it. And a lot of the comments, I was like, what are people going to say here? Were the same thing. Like, dude, I'm watching this again. This is fascinating what he's doing. And then I think in the article, that's what they said. They were like, Deion could start any business because he's so good at this. And he's not an idiot. Like there are the idiots, right, who are like, the showboating fucking idiot. Deion. It's like, dude, there is a method to what he does. And it works. And we're all going to be tuning in this week. And he's got, I mean, the guy ranked it. Did you see he rated his sons or his kids? And the people called him out. Like he ranked them. Good. And he's like, what? He's like, what? You know, he's like, and then he owned up, I forget which interview he was talking about it. This was recent. This is like in the last week. He's like, dude, parents want to act like you don't have favorites. Yeah, I do. And he's like ranking his kids. He said, what did he say? He goes, parents, they know the kid who's going to work hard. They know the kid who's going to want, he's like, I know the minute I die, the kid who wants my money right away. I just know. I know the kid who does this. And I'm just like, dude, he's very authentic is my point of bringing this up. That's what you get with Deion.
I mean, we're like, Deion's changed college football to the point where we're 25 years away from the 12-team college playoff all being schools coached by Deion's sons. Like Florida State with Deion Sanders Jr. taking on Oregon's Shedeur Sanders in the fucking round of 12 or whatever. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? They all have their own sunglass line.
So here's the equivalent. And he does have a lot of kids for this. He's like creating a sports version of the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that the analogy then? If you're saying they're all going to coach, they're all going to have their own clothing line, their sunglass line. Deion is basically like the Chris Jenner, is what you're saying,
Oh yeah,
with more talent.
with talent.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders. I mean, they might get fucked up by Oregon. They might get fucked up by USC, but he's not going to let his kids actually get fucked by USC.
Touche. Yeah.
That would be weird.
That would be weird. Well, we'll all be tuning in. Give us a ring. Let us know what you guys think. I would actually like to know what some of the diehard college people think. What do you think, Nebraska fan who watched your team get absolutely destroyed by Deion? What do you think?
I think the deal. I think we're the hardest part about doing this show, as we've talked about, is the delusion of every fan base. At this point, I think the college football delusion isn't that we're good. It's that we're the next place Deion's going to go.
Ah, yes.
It's not like Lions fans are like, Dan Campbell's fucking, he's gritty. Clemson fans are like, Deion will leave. He'll be here in 2 years. Bama fans are like, Deion's going to replace Saban. If I'm Deion Sanders, I am at Colorado coaching 5 years from now for $100 million.
And I just don't know if it works, dude. Let's like I said, I just think a lot. I mean, let's call it what it is. You think Sanders is feels going to work down at racist Alabama? Come on,
dude. I think if I was Deion, my next move would be Sanders State. That would be my next move.
His own university?
Yeah.
So it would be like Bishop Sycamore, but actually a real school.
But actually work.
with no
we're like 5 years away from everything just being Deion Sanders related content. Just turning on E and you're like, welcome to Sanders Rush, the reality show about girls who are going to sororities at Sanders State. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Idiocracy. The new Idiocracy is just the whole world is run by Deion Sanders. Like him. I mean, the team I'm watching is playing against Deion. Meanwhile, I'm drinking Deion Cola. Like, he wins either way.
Yeah, it's crazy. Give us a ring, 310-359-8365. We're on social at The Dirty Sports. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment.
Shout out to the Dirtballs who have hit me up since I've been in Toronto. Sorry, did not. It ended up making it just a personal vacation. So no shows here, but it's good to know that there's so many of you here, and maybe the next time I come back, we'll do a show here. Be back in LA, bunch of shows in and around in Los Angeles for the next couple of weeks before I head to New York. I've got shows in and around New York City. A bunch of them are already on my websites. More will be added soon. Empire City Casino on Friday the 29th, I believe. Couple shows will for sure be added down in the city clubs. A couple shows might be added up in the Westchester, Connecticut area. Keep your eye on that. Then we are off to Comedy Key West. If you're in Florida and you're riding high on that Tua MVP juice, hop on your Jimmy Buffett seaplane and come down and see me at Comedy Key West. Also, if anybody has a seaplane and wants to take me from Miami to Key West, always wanted to go on a Jimmy Buffett style seaplane, hit me up. Comedy Key West, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, October 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Giants at Dolphins on the 8th. We got Alaska. I've got shows again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Alaska in November. I believe that's like the week of the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. And then, of course, the 1000th Dirty Sports episode, Comedy House, New Orleans, December 16th. 16th? That's right? Yeah, December 16th. Get your tickets. Tickets available for the podcast, of course. Going fast. If you're a dirtball and you're listening to this, get your podcast tickets. I guess you could sort out your Joey No Chill, Andy Ruther hosting, stand-up tickets later, or just buy them all at once. But it's not a big club, guys, and we're only doing one podcast taping. There's going to be 2 shows after that same night, but there's only one podcast taping. If you're a dirtball, you want to come to the live show, highly recommend getting your tickets now. It is not a big club. We're doing that specifically, so it's like we're all on the podcast together. Get your tickets now. Follow me at Joe Prano on all social media. And, yeah.
And another thing on those tickets, we all know how the Bengals season's going, guys. We got to be there to support Randy Ruther. We were exchanging some texts last night.
Randy Ruther. I mean, Randy, yesterday he's putting in the Dirty Sports Reddit that he's planning on getting arrested the night of the 1,000th episode. He's stockpiling bail money.
Well, what you should do is donate that calf, Randy. Start doing some leg muscle, some leg workouts. All right, guys, that's the show. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll be back on Thursday. Enjoy these 2 games tonight. And as always, stay dirty.